Hey folks, got another little review for you. This time Battlegroup Fall of the Reich. And let's take a good look at it here. This is a marvelous supplement. Pages about 192. And standard format for Battlegroup. Hardcover. Nice glossy pictures in here. Nice and thick. I like it. Full of illustrations, and this covers the 1945 late war. This is the battle for Germany. This has the armies of Russia, the British, America. They're all in there. They're all in this one. So this is a really good, useful supplement for anyone interested in late war combat in World War II, regardless of the rule system you play. Excellent supplement. Full of history, army lists, rules if you play Battlegroup. And if you don't, I don't know what's the matter with you. But let's take a look. Yeah. As usual, full of pictures that are beautiful. Look at that poster on the wall. God, beautiful. Very inspiring. And again, these, in a way, function as a painting guide for you right away. There you go. Lots of ideas for colors of houses and buildings, not just uniforms and models, but you get a lot of information in this book. Don't underestimate pictures, my friends. First of all, it starts off with your history. Fall of the Reich. The Western Front goes into the history of it. And again, these are really well done backgrounds. I haven't read the whole thing for this book, but it's a great read by the look of it. It's got all the details covering what led to it. The activities during each month, like here's April, and the different sectors, like the British sector, the U.S. sector, the various battles that took place. And of course, yeah, you have the eastern side of the whole theater here too, involving the Russians. That gets its own little separate treatment. Over here, various battles, and so on. Just look at all that good stuff. The Siege of Breslau, isn't that nice? A gruesome picture there. That's history, my friends. That's history. And it goes into some special rules for your battleground, or Battlegroup, sorry. And rules that you could easily slip into any rule system, really. Street fighting. War-weary. These troops that are just, man, they've been fighting so hard and so long, it's going to have an effect on you, so it represents that. So there's a substantial section of optional rules and additional rules. Night fighting, fighting in buildings, shooting at buildings, and yes, you can collapse a building in this game if you want. So that's an interesting option. Now this book, unlike Overlord, and I believe Kursk, I don't have the Kursk book, but I believe that the counters are all the same until you get to Fall of the Reich. It does add some very unusual, different, specific counters, battle rating counters for this campaign, like air attack, Endkampf, out of fuel, things that represent the late war battles in Berlin and Germany in general situations. Low ammo, dud Panzerfausts, that's interesting. So it does have its own unique counters, which is nice. A lot of little flavor there for the period. And the next thing it does, after the history and special rules, is it goes into the actual army lists. In this case, again, it describes how army lists work in Battlegroup, and how you pick them and how you take them. Unit availabilities. Then it goes into the army lists, starting off with the background to the armies. In this case, the German army's last levy. And it covers things like the Volksgrenadiers, the Waffen-SS, all this stuff here. It goes into the special rules, weapons descriptions, tanks, vehicles that the Germans were using at this time period, anti-tank guns, lots of little pictures, and then it gets into the actual army list for the Germans. And in this case, it's called the German Defense of the Reich Battlegroup. Again, if you follow any of these campaign books from Battlegroup, the lists are kind of generic. They're not like the Flames of War ones that are geared specifically for specific divisions or companies or whatever. This allows you the option to field any kind of division, really, in the game. And the reason for that is because if you look at these lists, they have so many options that you can represent so many different formations with these, especially if you have some knowledge of the campaign in particular. Very useful army lists. These are really well done. And one of my favorite parts of the Battlegroup system are the army lists. I don't think anything has as much variety and historicity to it than any other game system I've encountered so far in terms of army lists provided with the rules. So here's the German one. And again, it just says German Resistance Battlegroup. Defense of the Reich Battlegroup, rather. And you get all kinds of things, tanks, everything, to represent different formations. Then it goes into the Russians. Again, history, description of the tanks, the weapons, the specifics for the Russians. Then it goes into their army list, the Russian battle group. And there's all their units that they can take. Again, all geared for this campaign. Lots of little pictures. Let's jump ahead here. And then the armies of the Western Allies. Now, this is the British, the Canadians, the Americans. They're all here. And they get their own description of weapons and such. And then it goes into their army list, which is right here. British Battle Group. Pictures, the actual units, the lists, organizations, so on and so forth. And then it's going to go into the American Battle Group, as you can see. And there you go. That's a nice picture. Look at that. Sorry for the glare there. I don't know how bad that is. It's a little dark in here. So there's the army list for the Americans. So you get like, what is that, 5 different army lists, I think? 1, 2, 3, 4 army lists. Then it goes into the battles of Germany. Now here's where you get your scenarios. And this is an excellent section because there's some generic scenarios in here which you can add to the basic ones from the rule book. And Kursk, as well as Overlord has one as well. Here we got delaying action. Well, at least this one is a generic one. This is an actual historical one. I believe. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is generic as well. Oh, they are. These are generic. Okay, so you got 3, 4 urban assault, 4 generic scenarios, I believe. Well, that's nice. Okay, so you do. You get 4 basically generic scenarios for Fall of the Reich. Oh, and here's another nice ad. The painting guides. Something missing from the Overlord book. Modeling guide, really. And this goes into details with the T-34-85. You got the M5A1 for the Americans or Brits. And nice modeling tips there. That's always useful. As long as it doesn't take up a huge section of the book, it's fine. That's a nice little ad. It helps people get into the game. Definitely a plus. And what do we have up next? Breakthrough to Berlin. Again, there's still a lot here. Okay, this is a little campaign. Now I remember. This is a little campaign. It's a really nice touch to the book. It's let me read it to you, just this one part. This is a short narrative campaign of 6 linked battles set in mid to April 1945 during the Russian offensive across the River Oder to destroy the German defenders of the Seelow Heights and break through the last defenses before Berlin itself. So there you go. That's a nice little campaign. And I'm sure you could tinker with this if you felt like it. It might even talk about that, using different armies for this. But here's a little mini campaign for you to play. It's got its own scenarios. These are all the scenarios from it. Here's the second one. So that's nice to have. You can play a little campaign involving the Russians assaulting Germany. Next we go into the Appendix. And again, if you're familiar with any Battlegroup campaign group books, the Appendixes are usually all of the equipment and vehicles, all the stats, the meat of the vehicles and weapons of the game. Of course, your battle group organization chart. Here's all the forces for the Germans. Their tanks, their guns. You see how they're organized, where you get your movement, armor ratings, armament, ammo, and so on for the various weapon systems. How many guys can ride a half-track, so on and so forth. They're all found here in the back. Here's the Russians. Then it'll go into the British and the Americans. And it's all there. And of course, here's the counters, what they look like. The battle rating. This is for photocopying. It's part of the book, as is this play sheet. And designer notes. Now that's a nice little addition, as is this. Nice little full spread by Plastic Soldier Company. And yes, there's the pull-out sections as well. You got the battle rating and play sheets that you can pull out. They're perforated. I took mine out, of course. So that's the book. Again, it's almost 200 pages, hardback, gloss. It feels good. It's a nice, hefty book. It's a little bit smaller than the Overlord book. Excellent resource for fighting the late 1945. It's basically not just the Battle of Berlin, but all the battles in Germany itself, in the East and West Front, in the various cities and villages that were fought over. Great scenarios. This is a really useful addition to the game system, and any game system really for this period. So there you go, folks. Fall of the Reich. Highly recommended. Grab this book.